Well, welcome to the Better Sundays podcast at reachkeep.com, and this is a special edition of This Needs Fixing. I have been on the road, as you can tell. I'm not in my normal studio here, but I wanted to spend some time with you and talk about fixing things that are kind of in our blind spot. One of the things I get to do in my travels as I get around the country is to help churches with what we call just a Sunday morning assessment. It's where we take a look around everything on a Sunday morning. I walk around for 2.5, 3, 4 hours with just a clipboard and take pages and pages of notes, and I want to show you some of those of a church that we just finished up out here in the Rocky Mountain West. I'm going to keep everything sort of anonymous because I've already reported all this to the pastor and will be preparing him a printed printout of this. I also have some conclusions that I'll give you at the end after my 5 pages of observation. I want to show you some of the things that need fixing and kind of what they can do about it. I thought this would be helpful for all of our churches, so hang in there with me and we'll go through these things. I'll give you some of the solutions at the end. If this is your first time here, my name is Mike Holmes. I'm the founding pastor out at Sinclair Baptist Church, and having someone come and take a look at your church and kind of walk through and look for some of those blind spots is helpful, especially when a pastor can do it, especially when someone who's been in the ministry for as long as I have, traveling in churches really all over the country, across nearly every state in America. We have been doing our work with the Baptist Youth Mission and Reach Keep, and just thrilled to be able to help pastors in this way. Every pastor has blind spots, and some of those are just natural blind spots because if you're in the pulpit, you can't see what's going on in a junior church. If you're teaching a Sunday school class, you can't see what's going on in the other Sunday school classes. If you're indoors of your church when people are coming into your parking lot, you can't tell what's really going on out there. So it is helpful to have somebody to come and do this. I want to give you some recommendations on how you can fix some of your blind spots when we get to the end of this. What I'd like to do is just kind of briefly go through. I have, 5 pages of just random notes of things. As we do this, we just kind of go through and write everything down that we see and then kind of conclude and kind of summarize them, put them into some categories and kind of come up with some conclusions to help with the blind spots. No one wants to continue with a blind spot, and so that's why we're doing this little episode called This Needs Fixing, because there was definitely some things that needed fixing. Now, let me just give you the preface of this church. First of all, this is probably one of the growingest and dynamic independent Baptist churches in the particular state I was in. It is probably up there with the largest churches. I mean, it wouldn't be qualified as a mega church, but it would be somewhere in the 300 range, which is large. And for a rural area, too, that's a very large church. So they're doing an excellent job. And many of the problems that this church found is that really happen is because they are so full in their building and so tight that they cannot function properly in some ways. So, and we talked all about that. And there is a plan for that, which is a multi-million-dollar new building, which is kind of in the works for them. So that's kind of cool. But at the time, they have some of these issues. One of my concerns with, and I'll just share this one with you right off the bat, is when you're in a tight situation or a small situation or an extremely rural situation, or you're a very lopsided type of church where everyone is much older or much younger or whatever, you're not necessarily balanced out, you can begin to have bad habits. You can start some bad habits that when you get free and move into a larger facility or start to get some more folks, some of those bad habits can go with you, and we'll cover a couple of those kind of at the end of this. So it's a very important thing to start to, not start, but just to always be improving. In fact, that's why this is called the Better Sundays podcast. If you're listening to this on one of our podcast feeds at Spotify or Google, or whether you're watching this on our YouTube channel, This is a podcast that is here to help everybody that listens to work on the constant improvement side of things, to constantly get better. And we believe out of those 52 weeks out of the year that every one of those can be an incremental better in some area, whether it's your atmosphere or providing better solutions or working better on relationships or sharpening up on the preaching or your marketing side of things. There's all sorts of areas where we need to improve, and that's what this podcast is for. So if this type of thing appeals to you, please hit the like button or the subscribe button so that you can get more of this, and we will just jump right into things right now. So I'll get my glasses on here so I can kind of take a look and check out some of the different things. And again, I'll just kind of zip through some of these. I walked around, saw just a variety of different things. One of the funnier things that was sort of happened is I believe the pastor's wife does the bulletin printing, and so the pastor had to do it. And if you're like me, when I was a pastor, sometimes I hadn't done printing for a while and didn't know exactly how to do it. And every one of the bulletins was printed, was upside down, the cover and the inside. So when we started out our assessment that afternoon, and we basically meet with the pastor and many of the key players on a Sunday afternoon and go through these things so it's fresh, I said, hey, did you know the bulletin was upside down? And we got a good laugh out of that, and we all survived that. And I'm sure every one of us have had a blunder like that before, so not a big thing. They had some door greeters that were outside kind of welcoming people as you came in. They had some ushers that were doing a good job on the inside, kind of moving around. They had a couple areas where it would kind of get clogged up, and we dealt with that. And that's one of the things you want to be careful is if you have an entry area and there's too much stuff right there, or people tend to be there. Some of your key people, you need to say, work on moving your conversation further or spreading out that so you don't end up with kind of the clogged entry area. They also had some stuff that was laying around just outside the door. Was a bunch of garden hoses and garden stuff that was laying around that could have been picked up. There was also, and this is a constant problem at every church, there was just a lot of different cluttery type things that were there that needed to be kind of picked up or could have been in other things. And they're very tight and don't have room to put a lot of things. So they do a really good job on that. But there still was some different things that were in the wrong places. They had nice little name badges for their ushers. I thought that was really nice. At the beginning of their service, they had a couple of screens and they had the kind of the rolling, features of what was coming up. I thought that was well done. They had a couple of things kind of out in the way that probably were there from a Saturday activity, and I saw them right away when I got there early Sunday morning. But by a few minutes, before the service, even Sunday school got started, those things had been taken and put away. So somebody had caught that and got those things put away. But there's always something laying around. I spent some time with the junior church people talking about how they teach and some of that, and we will cover that again in here just a little bit. Some of the sort of the rotation and some of the problems that can come with that. I did notice at one of the doors they had a little girl, probably about an 8 or 9-year-old girl, helping. Probably her father was there, I guess, helping them open the door and close the door. And that was a really sweet thing to see her doing that. And we have recommended that in some of our other videos. If you do have greeters, it is a great thing to have children or young teenagers opening and closing the doors for people. It really sets a tone of good behavior and lets parents that have children come see that, hey, this is the place we want to be. Man, these kids have good manners. So that was really good. There was an ushers meeting ahead of time, and they kind of went through some things, and that was really good. I did check their website as the service was going on, because one of the things that happens as a church, as people come to a church the very first time, they don't necessarily know who is the pastor of the church. If they've been invited and they're from the community, as a small community, they may know. But larger community, there can be 2-3 guys standing up there walking around, or you can have a guest speaker or whatever, and you don't really know who that is. And I believe your website needs to have a picture. And if you got a phone, you're putting website on a phone, it needs to be able to so it adjusts properly. But there needs to be a picture of the pastor or the pastor's wife together there somehow, so people know that leadership. We find that that's a very helpful thing to do. As I was checking their website, I found that it was set for a computer screen really good, but if you turned it on a phone, which phones are kind of up and down, that a lot of their text was running off of the page. And that is just simply a tech issue that has to do with responsive websites. And that's something that you'll want to check on yours. And this is a self-assessment that you can do, is go to your website on your phone and look at it. Probably 80% of the people that are checking you out are going to check you out ahead of time. And they're also going to check you out on their mobile device, not necessarily a computer. And so you want to make sure that your things all work in the what we call vertical format, as opposed to just kind of the way that we normally lay everything out on a computer screen, which is sort of wide. So that's a very important thing. They had a couple of security guys running around with radios and kind of keeping an eye on things, and we talked about how all that worked, and I thought that was really good. They did give, I checked this out and always check this out, they did give some dates and announcements in their bulletin and on their screens and verbally. So there's really 3 ways that announcements were getting made. And I checked those out and made sure the dates corresponded to whatever. Not too long ago, I was at a church and they advertised their big baptismal service, and it turned out it was like on a Tuesday. And I didn't think too many people were going to show up at Tuesday at 11 o'clock for the next baptism at the local church. So things can happen that way. They did some really sweet things during the Sunday school time, kind of a family-oriented church, and they kind of honored some people at their birthdays, and the pastor kind of really spoke to them one-on-one, and excited for their birthday, and I thought that was really good. They had some staff that were roaming around, which is really a good thing because they were catching the new visitors. So what I mean by staff is some ushers and some Sunday school teachers that were not just holed up in their little spot where they watch things, or not holed up in just a Sunday school room, but they were out walking around ahead of time and walking towards the front of the auditorium and looking at the people who were coming in and being seated. And they were, getting out there and shaking hands, and that was really, really good. I thought that was a good thing. They had some issues with their lights in their parking lot, which are not a problem now, but with evening services, it's something that you may need to think about. Is your front door, your entry door, and your parking lot area well lit? It's usually not an issue till we get into the later fall here in our hemisphere in November and December and January, but it is something that you want to make sure and work on those street lights now if you need to do it. It's much warmer. As we record this, it's the middle or the end of summer, but yeah, you can work on that, but check your outdoor lighting at night. Where we live, it still doesn't get dark till 8:30 or 9, so things are all over by then, but there will be a time of the year when all that matters, so make sure that your lighting is taken care of. They had kind of a little customer parking area, what I call customer parking, where you could kind of drop off the elderly and some of that. They didn't have to walk so far. They had some coffee set up that was really nice. I did tell them one of the things that we found is that their ushers or greeters don't have a cup of coffee. When they're on duty in a certain area, like right at the door, you don't want to shake hands with someone that's got a cup of coffee and it's wiggling all over, and it's just a touch too casual. You really want to focus on those first-time visitors, which we encourage you to call them first-time guests, and just love on everybody, but keep the coffee for a little earlier or a little later. Makes it much better. There were some internal hosts and attendants there, kind of keeping an eye on things, as I mentioned. The classrooms, I went to all the classrooms, and one of the issues that we have in many of our churches, especially if you have a growing churches, you have a lot of children that come in through a bus ministry or just happen to be there, and so you have a lot of kids, and you don't want too many people helping with junior church because that takes them out of the service, and so what you end up is with a high ratio problem. Their nursery had, I think, 9 or 10 kids, a couple pretty good crying babies when I was up there, and they had 3 workers. So that ratio was really good. Kind of 1 to 3 in the nursery worked well because there wasn't any real tiny infants. Then in their kind of smaller junior church, they had a husband wife with about 12 kids, and that was a pretty decent ratio. The larger junior church, though, was a little bit overboard. They probably had 30 plus kids and only 2 adults in the room. And if you have any kind of problem or need to send someone to the bathroom, or a sickness or bloody nose or a discipline issue, and you send an adult out, you're suddenly at a really out of whacked ratio of like 1 to 25, 1 to 30, and that's not a healthy thing. So we talked about some remedies for how to do that. Let's see, last couple of things on this page here. The new visitor info, their system for welcoming new visitors and getting data from those visitors wasn't really working very well, and we're working with the pastor, going to kind of give him some of our training that we went through on that, how to kind of better connect with those. They did have a nice bag that they gave to the visitors, and the visitors got something, but they didn't necessarily get the information back from the visitors so that they could go see them. And a visit to new people, or at least a phone call or a text or something, is a powerful thing. Their minister, or their nursery, was really full, and I thought they handled it well. When the nursery gets full, when you register people, they had actually had to kind of put a little music stand out in the hallway and had parents stay out in the hallway to register their kids to kind of get them in the nursery, because the nursery itself had no kind of breakdown. It was just all kids and workers in there. There wasn't like a little entry area. We recommend, if you have enough room, that parents can kind of step in. There'd be sort of a entry area there where they can kind of be out of the fray and kind of meet with the nursery workers and begin to build that relationship and fill out any paperwork and give any necessary instructions. They had to do it in the hallway, but that's just a space issue. They did a nice job of sort of that triage moment of moving things around. I checked out the bathrooms, kind of went through that and all the outdoor stuff. At the end of the service, their men's bathroom was out of paper towels. The trash can was overflowing and some of that. And those are just little management things. And Pastor, one of the things that we are, besides the preacher, you're the manager, and making sure that those bathrooms are in good shape is really probably more important than we think. Now, they were clean. It just happened to be that there was a lot of people washing their hands that day and they ran out of paper towels. But you can figure out a way to get more of those in there, and I pointed that out, and that's an easy fix. Also, when people were leaving, there were some handouts that they were giving as people were going out the door. We call that de-greeting, and we think de-greeting is an excellent thing. And so people kind of get a final thank you, and they get a daily bread thing or Bible verses or some list of something that the pastor preached on. And the pastor, in this case, someone was handing out schedules for some events coming up during the week, and they ran out of those. And again, just a management thing of knowing, like, hey, if there's so many in the auditorium, we're going to need to print so many, and they just were a little short on that. So let me get to my recommendations, and this is for the pastor that was there, and I've been through some of these, but I'll kind of give them to you as sort of a generic, and you can kind of do these, because probably you need help in these areas. There's probably blind spots in every church, and a lot of them have to do with this. Number one is greeter system. Your greeter system, and think of it as a system, not just a couple people doing tasks, but this is it's a team, it's a group of people, and you clearly define what they need to do, when they need to be there, how long they need to be there, where they need to be positioned. And in the case of this church, they had really good usher system kind of on the inside, but just outside the doors. Once you left, I walked out after church, and there was just people streaming out the doors, no one really talking to them or thanking them for coming or saying, hey, your kids look great, hope you had a wonderful time, that type of thing. And after church, we found, is a tremendous discipleship type moment, and where you can just really spend time with people, kind of build that relationship, and invite them back to the next event that your church has. And they really didn't take advantage of that. I think that they need to, and they need to think of create it as a system and not just a couple people doing things. So this is where the pastor is responsible for this, and he meets with some key people that are good people, and he says, I want you to be here when they come in and shake their hand and say hi, and I want you to be there when they leave and say goodbye. And there can be multiple, and there should be multiple people on this. Husband-wife teams are very easy to sign up. Just like if you have them in a rotation for helping in the nursery or junior church, you would have them in a rotation for being a greeter, that they would just be at the door, and that would be their duty, and they would be welcoming folks and saying goodbye as people left. So just a matter of assigning some of those things out. And we have done a lot of things on greeter. We have a podcast called Church Greeter Training Day. It is probably one of the most watched podcasts that we have, or YouTube videos, and you can see that on YouTube. Just type in greeter, go to reachkeep.com. Well, I'll show you how to get there in just a second, but go to our website or the YouTube channel and at ReachKeep and type in greeter, and you'll be able to get right to that. The other is number two thing that I had, and these are not necessarily priorities, but this is one that everyone will have and every church needs to have, almost without exception, is you need to battle the clutter. Okay, so focus on the greeters and then battle the clutter, and it's a constant thing. You got to walk through on Sundays or Saturdays and go, why is all that stuff sitting there? Can we put it somewhere else? And try to straighten it up and make sure that there is that it's not, the clutter is often there for a purpose, but it's not a purpose that is for everybody. It's just for the benefit of a janitor or something. I was in a church a while back. In fact, I'll be driving back across the state of Nebraska today, and I was at a church in central Nebraska, and they had, when you walk in the door, kind of a small little entry area there, the double door thing. Right on one side, taking up probably a quarter of the room, was a huge snowblower. And they had an extreme winter and had to use that snowblower, and that's where they kept it. They didn't have a garage or shop or whatever, apparently, that was close enough, so they kept it right there. Well, in the middle of the summer, it's just clutter. And certainly there is a way that once the snow season ends, you can get that thing into the back of a truck and get it somewhere, or move it, into some type of shed. But it was a clutter which was appropriate for one person. So really it was all for the benefit of one person. At our church, we have a lot of snow, so we have snow shovels out, and the snow shovels they always leave them out, the guys do, because they leave them by the door so they can shovel. Well, on the days it's snowing, that's appropriate, but the days it's not snowing, okay, let's get them back down the hallway and put them in a little room. We got a spot for them, and it's just constant battle. It's what we call attention to manage, not a problem to solve. You'll always have different levels of clutter and different leftover brochures from something, leftover this, leftover that. Many of those things need to be taken care of. So that's a constant battle. So the third thing I had was just kind of this rotation system thing with the junior church. And I'll go through a couple of the problems that they had. And this, you may be doing this yourself at your church. But with junior churches and nurseries, especially, those are the two, because you don't want people missing our Sunday morning service. We have people just kind of rotate in and out of the nursery duties or the junior church duties. And the unexpected consequences of that are many. There's many things that can kind of go wrong. And at this particular church, I'm talking to the guy that was getting ready to do it. And I said, so you do this with your wife? He goes, oh, yeah, my wife's up there going through the lesson right quick. And it's like, kind of like, hey, it's, they're going to be there in 15 minutes, the kids. And he said, oh, no, the problem is we prepared for the other one, and we found out that we were off by a week. In other words, so that when you have a rotation, you have sort of a schedule of like, hey, you're going to teach this, and you're going to teach this, and you're going to teach this. And someone apparently a week or two before had missed something, and so they either missed it or doubled up on it or whatever. I didn't dive into that, but there was a scheduling problem, and they had the wrong curriculum, and they were not ready to teach what was supposed to be taught that was coordinated with everything else. That happens often in a rotation system. Rotation systems can get kind of out of whack. The other thing with a rotation system is you just don't get the continuity with the children. So every week they get a new face and they get new mannerisms. So this week they might be able to, wiggle a little, and the next week it's like they got to sit like little Marines, just perfectly still. So you get kind of some changes that come with the lack of consistency, and it's hard for kids to handle some of that. They might, be made to do different things or raise their hand, where the next time the guy just says, hey, you have a question, go ahead and talk. And like they're afraid because the last guy got on them for not raising their hand. So there are a lot of consistency issues that can come with that, as well as all the, like say, just the problem of the roster and scheduling and all that. So rotation systems, sometimes when you're in survival mode, that's all you got. So what you need to have is a way to work on that. And the people in the rotation, well, first of all, if you can get a leader who's kind of in charge of the rotation system, other than the pastor, someone who can kind of walk up there and make sure they're on the right curriculum, the right day, and some of that, it's helpful to have sort of a curriculum coordinator and a roster coordinator that's not tied to the pastor. The other thing that can, that really needs to happen is that the pastor needs to kind of meet with this and kind of see where the problems are and then start to take care of those problems. So there are ways to kind of make the rotation systems a little better. One is the rotations can be longer so that you don't have as many gaps. In many churches, it's like a husband, wife, or family, or someone will teach for like 5 weeks. And the reason 5 weeks is because many of the curriculums are written for like 5-day vacation Bible schools. So there's many 5-day Bible stories. There's 5-day missionary stories, 5-day Bible club materials out there all over. So 5 weeks works really good. And then someone's going to miss for 5 weeks, but then they won't be back in there for, quite some time, depending on the number of people. So then you get a little bit of continuity. Another way to do it is to have the overlap. So if you have a set of couples that are teaching, the next week that couple will go up in there and say, remember where we were with our story? Well, Mr. Smith here and his wife are going to finish the story up for us, and they kind of take over. So you have someone go to the junior church that was there the week before and sort of ease the kids in and kind of give them the same thing. And that way you get a level of continuity kind of going across. Another way to help with the continuity thing is to have someone who is an opener, and they kind of do the opening almost all the time, or kind of rotate with somebody. And so they are in there. They maybe if the kids are dismissed from during the church time after the hymn singing to go to a junior church, you have an opener that's in there, and he does 2 or 3 songs with the kids, spends 5-10 minutes, introduces the storyteller. Then the opener guy leaves and gets back to church and catches the regular church service, and he only opens all the time, but that gives you a level of kind of consistency and continuity that runs throughout the whole thing. And you can have a person come in at the tail end and do just the same thing. So the solution for that, though, is to meet and to talk about it and to just kind of go, hey, how are we going to work on this? So, Pastor, there's probably blind spots going on, and one of them is what's going on in your children's ministries. You just don't get a chance to get there. And so an assessment is a wonderful way to do that. I can't get to all of them, but I'd love to come help you. I'm sure we might be able to work something out. But, give me a holler at info@reachkeep.com, or go to our website. In fact, I'll show you that. Let me show you that right now while I'm here. Our website is at reachkeep.com. There it is right there. Reachkeep.com, this is what it looks like. And we have just a variety of different things that are here to kind of help you. We do a lot of training. There's a lot of free materials here for church workers, Sunday school teachers, things along that line. The button here that you want to go to, though, is a coaching button. And if you hit the coaching button, and it kind of sort of gives you a little thing here, it says, I'm serious. So we want to move forward into that. We have online coaching, we have some private coaching, different things, but this one here called on-site coaching. If you click on this button here, the big orange one, it will tell you a little bit more. You can go down and kind of see some of the things that we can do for you on site. We have some other things that we can do there as well, some online training that'll help you. One of the things I wanted to point this out though, a couple free things up at the top here, the 3 steps to better Sundays. If you click on that, it will take you to this page, and we've just recently got this kind of set up on the 3 ways to help you have a better Sunday. And your doctrine, we know you got your doctrine, we know you got your prayer, we know you got your staff, we know you got your Bible, the way you like your music and all that. But there are some things that you can work on. This idea of creating a fertile landing ground, solving problems, being a solution-based church, and then the idea of the relationships and spreading it around like glue. And I have 21 different training sessions here. All of these are available. You can click on any one of those, and it will take you directly to where you can access that stuff and listen to that. Also have some Sunday school teacher training, the 7 Laws of Teaching, one of our most popular series. And every Sunday school teacher needs to go through all 7 of these right here. They are the laws of teaching. They are all from way back in the 1800s. A guy named Milton Gregory that wrote those things. They are universal principles, and they are really helpful for Sunday school teachers to grab hold of those things. So anyway, I wanted to kind of share that with you. The couple little bonus things that I shared with the pastor and will be in my report is just kind of creating a better way to capture data from your guests when they come. And we use a communication card or connection card, it's often called, and we have some information on that. I'll put a link in there for you to get to it. I believe you can actually just go to reachkeep.com/connection and get that information, but it tells you all about how to do that, and it's a great way to get data from things. And the other thing is just start to create meetings in your church with your key people. Most pastors, senior pastors, meet with their leadership team. They meet with a governance type board, deacons or elders, whatever it happens to be. And those meetings are pretty well set. And those are kind of big picture things. But the little things of like who's going to stand where and if you should have a coffee cup in your hand or not, you don't want to talk about that in a governance meeting. That's not where that's all for. But you do need to meet with like your head usher and your greeter people. And you need to get someone, we call it like a soulmate, someone that really gets it with you, and you need to meet with them and kind of get that stuff going. So it's always helpful to have fresh eyes. This is a set of fresh eyes for a church out here in the West that we were able to help, and they had us come in and kind of do all that stuff, and it was a great blessing. I've done these assessments really all over the country, and looking forward to helping you if you need one. They're travel is difficult, so can't always get to every place. But if you're interested, please give me a call or shoot me a note there. In fact, we'll do a coaching call and just kind of talk it through and see what you need. And a lot of things we can just help out with our Reach Keep Academy or some of our online training, which is available here at reachkeep.com. So I know there's been a little bit different kind of a podcast here as we talked about blind spots, but this needs to be fixed. That's sort of the idea. We need to fix broken things and not just let them stay broken. But if you don't know they're broken, you don't see them, you'll never get to them. So thanks for joining us here. If this has been helpful, give us a thumbs up. That's good. But also make sure you subscribe to this or share this. Subscribe on the podcast or share this in some way with another pastor. We really appreciate that. Share the website information, share the YouTube information. It helps advance the kingdom, and I appreciate it very much. So thanks for taking time to be with us here at the Better Sundays podcast at reachkeep.com.